we're going to continue factoring with GCF, except today we're going to actually look at expressions. Okay, we're not just going to look at two different terms where we have to find the GCF. We're going to be factoring all unit. Okay, so when you are factoring, and we're going to add to this list, but when we are factoring, the very first thing we should always look for is a GCF. Okay, this list is short right now. It's literally just that one, but after our next unit, we're going to add to it. The first thing you always look for is going to be GCF. It will make your life easier if you can make your numbers smaller, right? The smaller your numbers are, the easier it is to do whatever it is you have to do with it. Do you agree with that? Okay. So let's look at 2n to the third minus 20n squared. So now I have an expression. I have a plus or a minus sign in between. My final answer is also going to be an expression. It's not just going to be one term. And when I factor out a GCF, I still have stuff left over. Okay, so that's what factoring means. It means taking out what you can, what they have in common, but still having factored form. Remember, factored form is parentheses? So that's what it's going to look like. So I first have to identify what my GCF is between both of those terms. Okay, so if I look at, let's just look at 2 and 20 for the time being. What's the greatest number that goes into 2 and to 20? 2. Everyone agree with that? Okay, so on the outside I'm going to write a 2. Now if you need to write these separately and break it down and figure out what the GCF is, you can do so. But you're looking for what's the largest thing that goes into both of them. So if this is n to the third and this is n squared, what's the most amount of n's I can take out of both of them? 2. I can't take out more than 2 because this one only has 2, right? So I can take out n squared. So my GCF is 2n squared. This was literally our very first problem yesterday, right? If you go back to yesterday's notes, we had 2n squared. Okay, but I gave you an and in between. Now, one thing that we have to do is figure out what's left over. So we're going to have a set of parentheses. If I took out the 2 and I took out 2 n's, what's left over from this term? An n. Because if I multiply those back together, 2n squared times n is 2n to the third. Okay? Now, what's left over here? Negative 20 divided by 2 is negative 10. And I took out n squared. Are there any n's left? So this now is going to be what we're going to look at. This is our final answer. So you're taking out the GCF, but you still have to have what's left over there. Now, what's one way that I can check my work every single time to know if I did it properly? Distribute it back in. Okay, eventually we're going to have 2 sets of parentheses, so another option would be the box method. But you can always multiply it back out. And as long as your answer matches with what you started with, you know you did it right. If you multiply it back out and it doesn't, you did it wrong and you should probably fix it. Okay, so let's just, for fun, distribute this back in. So I'm going to just check my work. And I'm not going to require you to do this. Some of you, I think it might be beneficial, especially if you're having a hard time identifying the GCF. But if I distribute this back through, 2n squared times n is 2n to the third. 2n squared times negative 10 is negative 20n squared. Do those two match exactly? Then I know I did it right. Okay, so this is a recommendation. It is not a requirement to check, but it's something that I highly recommend some of you do. Does it make sense what we're trying to accomplish? Yeah? Okay, so we'll do another one together. So we're pulling out the greatest common factor and leaving what's left over inside parentheses. So what number, let's start there, goes into 2 and negative 14? 2. It's the biggest number that goes into both. Can I take out any v's? They each have 1, right? So I can take out that 1. And can I take out any m's? 1, because this one only has 1. You can't take out more than the smallest amount. So what's left over? I took out a 2, I took out the v, I took out 1 m, so I have 1 m left. I can't hear you, I'm sorry. What do you mean? Like the same process? Yeah. So you're seeing what they have in common, that gets pulled out, and then you have to rewrite what's left over. Okay? So if I took out a 2 here, negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. I took out the v, I took out the m. Manny, what'd you say? To check, right? Yeah, distribute. Let's make sure it actually works. Absolutely. Again, not a requirement, a recommendation. So if I distribute 2vm times m is 2vm squared. 2vm times negative 7 is negative 14vm. Those match. I know I'm good. Now, obviously, I'm doing the problem with you. They're going to match. But when you do them on your own, it's a good check. Should we try another one together? Or do you want... Actually, I'm going to have you try one. And let's just see how we do. Okay. So why don't you try 4x to the 4th plus 16x squared. All right. So my largest number between 4 and 16 is going to be 4. I have 4 x's here and 2 here, so the most I can take out is x squared. Okay? Now what's left over? I took out the 4. I took out 2 x's, so I have 2 x's left over. 16 divided by 4 is 4, and I took out both of those x's. Did you get that answer? Did some of you multiply it back in and just check to make sure you were good? Okay, fabulous. So, do you think things are going to change if I give you, how about 3v squared minus 27v minus 30? Three v squared minus 27v minus 30. So what's the difference here? There's 3 terms, so you just have to make sure it works for all 3 terms, just like we did yesterday. Okay, so what number goes into 3, negative 27, and negative 30? 3. The largest number is going to be really the smallest number on in your terms, right? So I know 3 goes into all of them. Can I pull out v's? No, Connor, why not?
Because 30 doesn't have a v.
30 doesn't have a v, so I can't pull it out. Okay, so I'm going to start my parentheses. If I pulled out the v, what's left from the first term? I'm sorry, if I pulled out the 3, what's left? V squared. If I pull out a 3 here, negative 27 divided by 3 is negative 9. And I still have a v. You leave the v's. You can't pull it out because this 30 doesn't have a v. And then what's negative 30 divided by 3? Negative 10. And if you distribute that back in, you'll see that you get the exact same answer. So this is factoring. Okay, it's pulling out what they have in common and being able to write it in what is factored form. And soon we're going to learn how to factor something like v squared minus 9v minus 10. We'll do that on Monday. It's so much fun. Okay. You don't believe me? No. Should we try another one together, or do you want to try one on your own? on your own. Okay, so how about 14b squared plus, okay, the numbers are a little large, but I believe in you. So 14b squared plus 142b plus 144. So see if you can come up with that. Who wants to walk me through their process? Super confident class. Okay, anyone? Tanya? Okay, here we go. So you chose 2 as your greatest common factor? Did you try anything else first? I haven't done it, so I don't know.
Because I did try it, but it didn't go through.
Did you? So you tried 14?
Yeah.
And 14 doesn't work? And you tried 7? And 7 doesn't work? Okay. If y'all say so, here we go. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to pull out a 2. Anything else? So no B's? Why not? You're
There's no B. 144.
perfect. Okay. So then that leaves me with what left over?
I divided 14 into 2, and I got 70.
Okay, so 7b squared.
And then I divided 144 into 2, and I got 71.
Okay.
And then I divided 144 into 2, and I got 72.
Everyone agree with that? Yeah? So the first thing hopefully you did is you took like 144, for instance, and divided it by 14 and realized that didn't work. So if it doesn't, 14 doesn't go into 144, you know it doesn't. It doesn't really matter if it goes into 142, right? And then you tried 7 after that. You took 144 and divided by 7 and realized that didn't work. And then the only other factor of 14 is 2. That is perfect. That is exactly what I want you to be aware of without having to write down and break everything apart every time. Because if you have this and you have to break all the terms apart just to figure out the GCF, it's going to take you a while to do that one problem. But do you see the process that we're going through?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So let's just do another one since we're on a roll. Move this down. So how about how about 9x to the 4th minus 75x to the 3rd plus 126x squared. And I'm going to say if you can do this, I have pretty much confidence in you that you can do all GCF. Okay, so take a second and see what you get. Okay, who has the confidence to walk me through this problem? Go ahead.
The GCF is 2x to the second.
Oh, we're just going to go straight for it. Okay. Straight into it. So we all tried 9 first and 9 didn't work? Okay, and then my only other option is 3. Okay, because 9's the biggest or the smallest number, so my factors are 9 or 3. 9 doesn't work, so 3 does. And you said x to the what? To the second, because the smallest x I have is x to the second, which means I can't pull out any more. Did everyone get 3x squared as their GCF? Okay, now when I figure out what's left over, 9 divided by 3 gives you 3. You've taken out 2 of those x's. How many are left? 2. Okay. Negative 75 divided by 3 is negative 25. I've taken out 3 of those x's, or 2 of those x's. How many are left? 1. 126 divided by 3 is 42. And I've taken out both of those x's, so there's nothing left over. Did we get that? I see like 3 heads. Yeah? How many of you went back and checked your work? 4 people, 5 people, 6 people. Okay. Remember, especially right now while you are learning, do the extra work. Learn how to do it. Okay, listen, hold on. Shh. While you are learning the process, do the extra work. Go back through and multiply. Eventually, you won't need to do that. Okay, but this is the chance for you to go back through and multiply. Because again, our average was an 82%, which means most of us know exactly what we're doing when it comes to multiplying. Okay, take that as your advantage and make sure you have it done correctly. Questions? All right, let's